What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a lot different than what you might normally see on this channel. Today I'm going to talk about something very serious, and that's three things that I deal with. It's depression, anxiety, and thyroid disorder. We'll really talk about the depression and anxiety, but we'll also talk about the thyroid disorder as well, which is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And the reason we're talking about that today is because it really does play a part in your depression. But before we get started, I do want to say that I'm not making this video to get any sort of attention or make anyone feel sorry for me. My hope in this video is, well, two things really. The first one is hopefully someone's watching this video and they can relate, and maybe this video helps them get through what they're getting through. Maybe this video helps them see a light at the end of the tunnel. One thing that I've always stressed is that what you're dealing with is very temporary. It's never permanent. And hopefully this video really shows that, what I've gone through and where you could be as well. The second thing is, this video is also for me as well. This is part of my healing process. Depression and anxiety is something I never really opened up about to people, especially to the world. I talked about it to my close friends and family, and they've helped me deal with it. But this is sort of a fear of mine, is to open up about it. And I know they say, especially with anxiety, one of the biggest things that can help you with anxiety is to just face your fears head on. And that's not always easy to do, but here I am. I'm facing it head on. This is something I've lost sleep thinking about what I would say and how I would come across. That's part of anxiety, is how, for me at least, is thinking about how people perceive you and feeling like you're constantly being judged, even though you're not, So this is sort of a healing process for me as well. But before we start talking about depression and anxiety, before we just jump on in it, I feel like I should give you a backstory a little bit. First of all, I'm 35 years old, I'm married, and I have a son. And for me, anxiety started, well, really ever since I can remember, I've had anxiety. But I feel like it's really ramped up when I made the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade going into high school. I lived in a very rural town, a predominantly white town, predominantly white community, and we moved to the big city when I was going into high school, and literally moved into, I think at the time it was the second biggest high school in Indiana, and it was a huge cultural shock for me. Not only was I already, socially, I just wasn't able to make friends anyways. But now pushing me into literally one of the biggest schools in the state, it was a cultural shock. It was, like I said, it was a predominantly white community going into one of the biggest schools in the capital city was huge. I mean, it was terrifying to me. And I feel like that played a large part in my anxiety. I was kind of a shut-in and kind of kept to myself, and that was tough for me. But back then, my anxiety was a little different than what it is now. It was more, I guess now it's more physical, where I actually feel anxious, more like a panic attack than it is, just feeling nervous. Like, I feel like that's what, everybody deals with that. You're nervous. You go in front of a crowd, or you have to do some sort of public speaking, or you go in front of some sort of authority figure like your boss or your police officer or somebody else, and you feel nervous. I feel like everybody deals with that. Maybe not in the same way. Maybe everybody is different as far as that goes, but everybody gets nervous, right? So back then I didn't realize I was anxious. I didn't realize I had anxiety. I just thought I was normal. But we'll fast forward. I got married when I was 25 years old. I married my high school sweetheart. And then a year later, we had our first and only son. He's now 9 years old. And, we live a pretty normal life, I would say. We're happy. We own our own home. We own our own vehicles. We do pretty well for ourselves. We have, pretty good careers, and we're happy, as far as that goes. But, I guess, I don't know, something just, in your mind just kind of clicks, and you don't realize it right away. It's not something you just automatically go, okay, I'm depressed. It's something that through time you start to realize that maybe something's happening, something's different. But for me, like I said, I was always anxious. I always had anxiety. But back in 2015, I lost my stepfather to cancer, and that same year, I would say maybe three months later, I took on a new position at work. I've always worked at the same place ever since I was 17 years old. I started there when I was like, I guess in 2001. It's now 2018, so 17 years I've worked at this place, and I've always kept the same position. But in 2015, I started this new position, and I kind of had a rough time with it. I felt like I was good at the job, but certain aspects of my job made me nervous, especially like picking up the phone. I had to make phone calls to important people, attorneys and judges and just a lot of important people that I would have to call, and it made me nervous. It was something that it was hard for me to deal with. And I felt like my anxiety got worse and worse. And with the loss of my stepfather, he was a big part of my life. He was he was a father figure to me. So through time, I'd say I became more and more depressed. My anxiety got worse and worse. It wasn't until I guess June, July of 2016, the next year, is when I really realized I was spiraling downhill. And I think it was late July. I realized something wasn't right when I started going to work, and I would be sitting there at work, and literally out of nowhere, I'd start crying. And at the time I was like, I have no idea what I'm crying about. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my body. And so I finally, after you have bad thoughts and you realize something's not right, and I won't go into the bad thoughts, but I'm sure you can use your imaginations. I had some pretty terrible thoughts. One day I just broke down in tears, and I went out to my car, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What do I do? Nobody knows that I'm dealing with this. And I remember thinking, I need to see a doctor. I need to go see a doctor. I was a typical guy who didn't have a regular physician. So in my mind, I was like, I just need to see a doctor. And so I pulled out my medical card, and on the back of my medical card, it had a number on there, and it said, for mental health, call this number. And so I called the number, and it was like, it was a bit of a relief, it's sort of like, this is what I should have done a long time ago. And so I called the number, and my mind is I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but whenever you see those numbers where it's like, if you're dealing with mental health, call this number, you feel like they're gonna think you're crazy. They're gonna think you're crazy. They're gonna put you in a straitjacket and put you in a padded room or something. But it's not like that. They're there to help you. And so this person on the other line was very helpful, and they said, yeah, you need to see a doctor. And they helped me. They tried to help me set up a doctor's appointment. At the time, nobody was willing to see me at all. I literally couldn't get into anyone. Everyone said there's either a month wait, and I didn't have a month. I couldn't wait a month. There's no way. At the time, I'm thinking the world is ending to me. A month, no way. Nobody was willing to see me, and I got off the phone with them, and I was still destroyed. I didn't know what else to do. And so I called my mother, and my mother's always been my biggest support, 100%. No matter what, my mom was always there for me. And so I called my mom, and I just broke down in tears, and she knew how desperate I was, and she did everything she could, and she got me into a physician and somebody that was willing to see me that same day. And I remember going in there thinking, these people are going to think I'm crazy, I kind of composed myself going into the doctor's appointment. But as soon as the doctor came in, I broke down and cried. I just spilled my guts, you know what I mean? I just told him everything that was going on, and he immediately diagnosed me with severe depression and general anxiety, two things that I guess I kind of knew that I had in the back of my mind, but I never really knew it, I was never diagnosed with it officially. And he was able to diagnose me with that after seeing me for 45 minutes. He was already diagnosing me with that. And it was scary. It was like, now what do I do, And he explained to me that this is very normal. A lot of people deal with this. And he prescribed me something for my, no, at the time he didn't, not for my anxiety, just for depression, which was an SSRI, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was the generic form of Zoloft, which I took for a while, and I didn't feel right on it. I just felt like kind of a, you hear these stories all the time. You feel like a zombie. You don't feel like you have any true emotion, and that's kind of how I felt. It was tough for me to being on that medicine. So I was on it for about a month, and then I came off of it. But while I was on that medicine, I started having heart palpitations. I remember one day in particular, I had just worked outside in the yard, sweaty, and I went in and took a shower and laid down to go to bed, and at the end of the day, and my heart just starts beating, and just having this weird out-of-body experience I can't even explain to you. I felt like I was having a heart attack. At the time, I convinced myself that I was having a heart attack. And I got up and I walked around the house for a little bit thinking, okay, I just need to take some deep breaths, calm down. But I ended up waking my wife up and said, Sheena, something's not right. I told her, I said, I can't explain what it is, but I think I might be having a heart attack. And so I laid back down, and my hope was that maybe I wasn't having a heart attack. Maybe it was just in my head. And so I tried to lay back down, and I said, if this happens, because it was coming and going, it was like of a feeling where it would come, it'd be very, very intense, and it would relieve for a while. It'd come, it'd be very intense, and then it would relieve for a while. And I thought, if it happens one more time, you need to take me to the hospital. And it happened. I had these, in addition to heart palpitations, I was also feeling like cold. Like I felt like I was shaking. I was shaking uncontrollably. Just couldn't breathe. I felt like my windpipe was closing. It's weird symptoms. I will say now that I look back at it, I was having a panic attack, but I never had a panic attack before. I thought I was having a heart attack. But anyways, my wife drove me. She tried to drive me to the hospital. We got halfway there, and I said, we need to call an ambulance. I think I'm dying. And it's embarrassing looking back now thinking, well, you were having a panic attack and you thought you were dying. But panic attacks are a lot different than just regular anxiety. Panic attacks are a lot more physical, and that's what I deal with as far as my anxiety now. It's not, the feeling of nervousness anymore. It's literally physical. If you're in a room with people that you're uncomfortable with, you start to feel it. Your heart starts beating, and it's more physical than in what it was in the past. But again, we called the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital and did all these tests on my heart and all these things, and nothing was wrong. They said, there's nothing wrong with you. They suggested maybe I had a panic attack, and I said, it wasn't a panic attack. I just was convinced that it was something more serious. So they took tests. In fact, I even wore a heart monitor for 30 days, where I wore it on the side of my hip. It literally had these leads that came up, and it was on my chest, and it was being monitored at a different location in California. Anytime something would happen with my heart, this monitor would pick it up, and it would send results to this place in California. And after the 30 days was up, they looked at my results and said, there's nothing wrong with you, even though I still felt like something was wrong with me. Something wasn't right. Again, now that I know, it was definitely anxiety. And so that was on and off for a while. Finally, I ended up getting blood tests done. And one of the things somebody said to me as far as my depression was, they said a lot of this could be related to a thyroid disorder. And so I suggested it to my doctor, and my doctor was willing to go and give me a test to see if maybe something was wrong with my thyroid. And sure enough, my results came back. I had hypothyroidism, which is an underactive thyroid, which means I'm not a doctor, so I can't really explain it too well, but I just know that it just means your body's not getting enough of the thyroid hormone, and that can cause depression. It really can. You can look it up right now. A lot of times your thyroid can deal with, it can have a lot of symptoms of depression and stuff. So I was convinced that that's all that was wrong with me. I'm not depressed. I have a bad thyroid. And my doctor at the time was not willing to put me on thyroid medicine. He felt like my depression was more of a threat than my thyroid. I made the decision to go see another doctor that was willing to see me, and I convinced him to put me on this thyroid medicine, and he did. And it's a slow thing. Thyroid is tough. It's one of those trial and error type things where they put you on a certain dosage and they see how that works for you, and then 3 months later you go back for test results, and if it's not right, they give you a little bit more, and then you go back, and if it's not right, they give you a little more, and it's one of those things they don't want to over prescribe you on the thyroid medicine, because that can mess you up even worse. But it took me about a year and a half to 2 years to actually get to a normal range on my thyroid, and it has helped as far as my depression. But it's something else, There's something. It wasn't just the thyroid that was the issue. I also had other issues as well. But my doctor now is a great doctor. I started seeing a gentleman doctor, but now he was just a resident doctor. So now I'm seeing another doctor. But she's been great. She's been amazing. She listens to me and she sees my problems and she helps me. She deals with my thyroid, even though you can see a endocrinologist, which is a doctor that specializes in thyroids. She said if it ever gets out of hand, I'd have to go see an endocrinologist. But as of right now, it's under control as far as my thyroid. But she also has me on a new SSRI, which is called citalopram, which is the generic form of Celexa, I believe. And that was, let me just say, that's been a roller coaster ride. You hear all these things about SSRIs, about how it takes a while for it to work. It could take, I think they say 4 to 6 weeks. Well, in my case, not only did it take a while for it to work, it actually made my anxiety 1,000 times % worse. I'm not even kidding, like to where every single night I was having a panic attack, and it was like I felt like I was dying, like I was having a heart attack every single night. And they say just stick with it, and one of the symptoms on there, it says you can make your anxiety worse. And so I'm just like, I just need to stick with it. And I did, and I stuck with it. And Celexa has been like a life changer to me. It's been amazing. I don't know what else to say. It's been amazing. It's been a life changer. I feel like I have a better relationship with my wife now. I'm more outgoing to where, before I was like, all the things that I love doing. I love woodworking, and I love flying my drone, and playing baseball with my son, and that sort of thing. I had no desire to do that anymore. And now I feel like I'm starting to get my life back. So it's been a roller coaster. There's been some ups and some downs, but Celexa has been really, again, a lifesaver for me. It's something that has changed my life. So where I'm at now, just kind of an update. I do still deal with depression. I still have moments, where I'm not feeling like myself. But I'm so much better than where I was before. I can't even tell you how much. But it's a process. It's something that I know it's not going to get it better overnight. But again, like I said in the beginning of this video, nothing's permanent. It's always temporary. I'm always moving forward. But hopefully you guys can relate. If you guys do, feel free to leave a comment down below if you want to add anything to what I've said, or if you want to correct anything that I've said that was wrong as far as the way the thyroid works, or depression, or any of that sort of thing. Because again, I'm not a doctor. I just know what I've experienced, and I just want to share that with you guys. If any of you guys are going through anything that's tough right now, you're having a tough time, I will leave a number down in my description, as well as on the screen, of a number that you can reach if you're really going through a really tough time right now. Just get some help. Either call the number or reach out to somebody. Cry to somebody. Seriously, like pour your heart out and tell them you're going through something really tough. Because I promise you, if it's somebody that you really love and somebody that really loves you, they're willing to help you. They really are. If it wasn't for my wife and my mom and my family, I hate to say this, but I'd be in a pretty bad place right now. I really would. So I was glad that I was able to open up to them, and that they were able to help me. So Again, the number is down in the description if you need some help. I will also leave a link to my Twitter page. If you guys want to reach out to me, if you guys are going through a tough time, you can leave me a Twitter message. You can also email me. I'll leave my email down in the description. If you need to write a little more than 160 characters? I think it's more than that now, but if you need to express yourself, email me. I am willing to help you guys, because literally I've gone through everything that you've gone through. I promise you that it is only temporary. So good luck to you guys. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.